qué crees que tiene que haber mujeres científicas?
¿Y por qué no?
Una mayor cantidad de mujeres en la ciencia es necesaria porque para realizar avances científicos significativos lo importante es que en ella trabajen personas con vocación e inteligencia, independientemente de su género.
Las mujeres deberían estudiar ciencia porque en general, en su carácter, tienen rasgos de ser muy detallistas, concienzudas y muy constantes. Es decir, presentan unas aptitudes clave para las diferentes carreras científicas.
Las mujeres debemos tener las mismas posibilidades que los hombres de estudiar carreras científicas y de trabajar en puestos relacionados con la ciencia, ya que tenemos las mismas capacidades intelectuales que ellos. Además, podemos aportar diferentes puntos de vista a los estudios y las investigaciones.
Necesitamos la perspectiva femenina en el ámbito de la ciencia para seguir avanzando y descubriendo, ya que el punto de vista de un género no es el mismo que el del otro. Y además, antes las carreras científicas estaban más restringidas para las mujeres. Hoy en día debemos seguir avanzando, y ahora más que nunca.
Las mujeres que hacen ciencia aportan todo su conocimiento, talento y potencial. También proporcionan distintos enfoques en las investigaciones y soluciones desde un punto de vista más femenino, lo que se traducirá en una mayor efectividad en las investigaciones y trabajos científicos.
Mujeres, siempre importantes también en la ciencia.
Tanto los niños como las niñas hacen todo lo que ven y aprenden de los mayores.
La falta de mujeres científicas lo único que genera es más desigualdad y esto afecta directamente en el futuro.
Ver a mujeres triunfar en grandes proyectos y triunfar profesionalmente
Va a fomentar la elección de estas para un futuro más igualitario.
La ciencia es algo esencial para el avance de la sociedad.
y no entienden el género. Al igual que necesitamos a los hombres, necesitamos a las mujeres.
Lo necesario es que tengamos ambos las mismas oportunidades.
Y no haya distinción por nuestra condición.
Las mujeres son muy importantes para la ciencia, pues porque hay que tener igualdad, muchas cosas de esas. Y hombre, estaría feo que a los hombres se les diera un favor especial y a las mujeres no. Así que todo el mundo igualdad y que cada uno llegue a donde tiene que llegar sin restricciones de género.
Son pocos los casos en los que alguna mujer ha recibido honores por su descubrimiento.
Por ello es necesario reconocer la aportación que tantas científicas han hecho en los campos del desarrollo y de la ciencia, porque hay que darle valor a estas referencias del pensamiento, las cuales no han pasado a ser historia por el hecho de ser mujer y hombres les han robado su pensamiento.
Las mujeres son importantes en la ciencia para que fluya la química.
This is Marie Curie. You probably know who she is. She's one of the most prominent scientists of all time. She was the first and only person in history to win 2 separate Nobel Prizes in 2 separate sciences. She pioneered radiation research and discovered 2 new elements. She was also denied membership at the French Academy of Sciences because she was a woman. Throughout her incredible career, she faced enormous amounts of sexism. And yet, you've heard of her. Despite all the obstacles, she succeeded in her career and was recognised for her achievements. But what about the women that didn't? What about the women who were denied that same recognition for their work? How many other historical female scientists can you name? How many of these women have you heard of? Caroline Herschel was a German astronomer. She discovered several comets. She was also the first woman we know of who was paid for her contribution to science, the first woman to be awarded a gold medal of the Royal Astronomical Society, and with Mary Somerville, she was the first woman to be named an honorary member of the Royal Astronomical Society. Lise Meitner performed extensive work on nuclear physics and radioactivity. Her collaborator was later awarded the Nobel Prize for their discovery of nuclear fission. This is Hypatia of Alexandria, a Greek mathematician, philosopher, and astronomer. She was head of a school in Alexandria. None of her work has survived to the modern day, and according to many sources, she was murdered by a Christian mob. Jocelyn Bell Burnell discovered the first radio pulsars. This was described as the greatest astronomical discovery of the 20th century. Her PhD supervisor was later awarded a Nobel Prize for this discovery. Bell Burnell was excluded from the prize. Cecilia Payne-Gaposchkin discovered what the sun is made of. The leading astronomer of the day dismissed her hypothesis and encouraged her not to present her findings. 4 years later, he published his own paper with the same conclusions. For most of history, he was given credit for this discovery. Rosalind Franklin performed work that was vital to the discovery of the structure of DNA. Her colleague shared her work without her permission with James Watson and Francis Crick. With this information, the two were able to make their famous discovery. Watson and Crick, along with Franklin's colleague, were later awarded the Nobel Prize for the discovery. Franklin was excluded. Amy Noether was a mathematician who made enormous contributions to rings, fields, and algebras. Noether's theorem has been called one of the most important mathematical theorems ever proved in guiding the development of modern physics. She had to work without pay for 7 years after completing her dissertation, as women were excluded from academic positions at the time. Later in her career, she had to lecture under a male colleague's name, as the faculty at her university objected to a female lecturer. These examples are horrifying, but surely that's all over now. Women can attend university after all, they can lecture, they can publish their own results. So what's the problem? Unfortunately, sexism in STEM is still a major issue. Women are still perceived as less able when it comes to science and technology, and this perception has a real effect on their careers. For example, a recent study analysed data from GitHub, an open-source software community. They found that code written by women actually had a slightly higher approval rating than code written by men, but only if their gender was unidentifiable. If it was obvious that the coder was a woman, the approval rating dropped. Many other studies have found similar results. A large study in 2012 sent out resumes for a lab manager position and found that resumes bearing female names were significantly less likely to be successful than an identical resume bearing a male name. Sexism isn't gone, it's just become less overt. Society cannot progress when half our population is held back from achieving their full potential. Imagine where we would be if women had been educated to the same standards as men throughout history, imagine what these women could have accomplished if they had not had to battle sexism, if they could simply have focused on science. Every year there are improvements for women in STEM. More and more women are entering science and technology fields. But discrimination still exists, and it is the responsibility of every person who cares about science to help fight this prejudice and to help ensure that examples like those listed in this video never happen again.